you have a career that spans art and science, at least just art and science, but more. Tell us more about how these have often come together to work together towards a particular project.
I've been doing art and science, well, more art now than science for probably, 3-4 decades. At the time, as a child, I was good at art, but of course you couldn't make, profession out of art, according to my family. So then I got into the sciences. But both of them have always kind of gone in parallel because they always make me think of the awe of things, whether it's art or science or the environment or, an act of kindness, or it's about awe. It's about what would happen if we did this. If you allow things just to be, it's amazing how you will find the patterns between things. And pattern finding, as you know, is incredibly addictive because you think, can I find a pattern that someone else hasn't seen before? And then visualize it and then hopefully share it with other people. The overlaps with science, I really struggled with elements of science. I don't have enough rigor. I'm very intuitive in the way that I do things. But to go into the lab and come up with an experiment and then spend 3 months trying to reverse engineer it, it's not good for a research scientist. Yeah. So, but they were both always driven by what would happen if I did this? And wow, isn't it, can I bend this to other uses? Can I do this in a way that someone else hasn't been able to do? I think there's always that challenge, not because you're competing with others, but you're competing with yourself.
Yeah. So that's why you were able to pursue something that it was counterintuitive to you initially.
I don't even know. I never even thought about it. It's, when you label things, when we think of intuition, we don't put labels on things. I have this constant dichotomy, this constant finding the balance between process, which is my rational scientific brain, and then intuition, which is just allowing things to happen. So a lot of process, a lot of materiality is in my work. And as the years have gone on, I used the physics, I used optics, I used plastics, I was bending materials to other uses. And then during COVID, strangely enough, when I could no longer access some of the materials that I was used to, I realized that actually I could use elements from the natural world. If you think, I could no longer access steel. And then I remembered, actually, a tree is some of the best engineering you will ever find. I can use tree trunks. So, necessity being the mother of all invention, I think some of it was because of that. Some of it's, you look at an object and you think, how can I bend it? What would happen? Again, it's what would happen if I did this?
Right. Interesting. So what value do you think there is to having an interdisciplinary education, one that sort of combines many of these methods and knowledge areas from the moment that you started learning moving forward? What value do you think that could have to the mind and to the creative process?
And sometimes when you look at some of the greatest works, it's when people have collaborated, people who don't do what you do collaborate. Polymathy is that sort of collaboration in your own brain or with other subjects, whereas you possibly could do it with other people.
Okay, so now you're affiliated with an interdisciplinary institution, the LIS. So tell us more about what being an LIS Fellow means to you.
First of all, it's a huge privilege to be a fellow. Secondly, it's a bit like coming home. I've spent most of my life being on the outside of most institutions. Didn't fit into the art world, didn't fit into the science world, was, probably unemployable, always had to do my own thing. Now I see it as a superpower rather than something that I have to apologize for. And I know the power of it, not just in terms of solving problems, but in terms of purpose, because let's face it, that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to find is, well, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of share some of my process, some of the way that I've done things, to also work with young people who don't think like I do is incredibly exciting. But it's finding a home and also knowing how powerful this is, but knowing there's so many institutions, there has been a lot of resistance to this. I know it works. I know that it keeps you active. And, if you think about, again, obviously I'm thinking about age because I'm getting up, but, we're going to be living for an awful lot longer. You can reinvent yourself numerous times. You can find multiple purposes. And what a wonderful way to live your life.